Hey everyone, this is the Brighten Your Bulb series, an employee skills enhancement initiative in support of PCI's 2020 strategic plan and our ongoing efforts to embed innovation. Each session in the series is specifically designed to enhance staff knowledge, insights, and skills for innovation. Today's session is on when to PCInnovate. That is to say, under what circumstances might you use PCI's special tools and methodologies to innovate. My name's Chris Besnecker, and I'm the VP for Strategic Initiatives at PCI, and I'll be your presenter for today. For this session, we'll help you answer the following three questions. What is the PCI innovation process? When should I innovate outside that process? And when should I use the PCI innovation process to improve what we do? So what is PCI innovation? Well, it's a methodology based on innovation best practices that helps you build ideas into innovations. It's open to anyone within the organization, and no prior approval is needed to submit. There's an online process, and it starts at www.pciglobal.org/innovation. So let's say you got an idea, or maybe you just have a big problem, or maybe you have an idea to solve a big problem. Regardless, you feel that change is necessary and you're pretty passionate about helping drive that change. So within PCI, you have two general ways to approach that change. You can address it as part of the regular order of doing business, and this could be through a unit or a departmental structure. It could be a working group, or perhaps it's embedded in a given program. Or you have free rein just to do it yourself. Or you could use the PCI innovation process. So when do you decide which is best? Well, let's first start with innovating outside the system. You would do it, for one, if the solution is readily apparent and easy to implement. If that's the case, you don't need the system. You know how to solve it, it's simple to do it, so you just do it. Or perhaps it's not simple, but it's an acknowledged priority, and there's existing authorization, time, and budget allocated to make the change. Now this one's a little tricky because oftentimes we state that it's a given challenge is a priority to address, but nothing really materializes. If, however, your unit or department or the organization as a whole has developed a plan to solve it, has put forth resources to do so, and is moving forward, then there's little value in duplicating it through the system. Finally, perhaps a guided process of rapid development, testing, and feedback isn't warranted or desired. It may be that the proposed solution has already been thoroughly tested by others in similar circumstances, or we feel there's little or no risk to adopting it and going straight to execution. Maybe it's simple and quick to test, and there isn't a need for a slightly more formal and rigorous process that PCI innovation would provide. Now you need to be careful with this one as well, because oftentimes passing on an opportunity to more thoughtfully develop, test, and give feedback can lead to a flawed and expensive mistake. So when would you use the PCI innovation system? Well, generally speaking, you want to use the system when you've zeroed in on a specific and quantifiable challenge, but the solution or its execution needs further development and testing. In fact, you may not have even figured out a solution yet. So what do we mean by specific and quantifiable? Well, let's use time management, for example. Now, time management is a challenge many of us face, but it's hard to solve time management unless you deconstruct it a bit. So as part of the process, you want to make sure that you're determining specifically what is it about time management that you want to change. So for example, you or your team spends 25% of your work week on a particular manual process. That's something you can start to innovate around. Climate change would be another example. It's it's very broad and abstract. But if you distill it down into specific aspects, such as crops that aren't drought tolerant or an inadequacy of early warning systems, that's a challenge that has a specific measurable impact and that you can innovate around. Now, a second reason why people would choose to use the PCI innovation process is because it's been difficult to move it forward otherwise. It's stuck. Oftentimes it's a time issue. No one seems to have the time to get around to it. or perhaps there's a degree of resistance or skepticism. PCInnovation allows you to get around these hurdles. A structured and guided process has a high level of automation that can move ideas forward without consuming a lot of people's time and without having to get approval to submit. Because you recruit team members, it also allows you to share the load of any work, and once you submit, you have an automatic review team lead working on the other end that's time-bound and getting back a response to you. Finally, you would use it if you feel that the idea really would benefit from a guided, rapid development, testing, and feedback process. Now, to this point, outside the innovation process, change can sometimes be slow and even grind to a halt. Under PCInnovation process, changes can happen fast when the timelines are adhered to. In fact, starting from the initial idea stage, you can get to the point of having developed, tested, and planned for scaled execution in as little as a few months, depending on the nature of your innovation. And that's with the structured feedback process by review teams. And that feedback is critical to iteration and sophistication of your idea. But something else very important happens. You build trust and support for that change in ways that may not have been possible through conventional approaches. That's because you're demonstrating the need and value while minimizing the risk to the organization through testing. And that trust ultimately leads to faster adoption, scale, and support. So let's recap. When would you use a more conventional approach to address change? Well, when the solution is apparent and easy to implement, when there's authorization, time, and budget allocated, and when the development, testing, feedback cycle really isn't needed. But when would you use the PCInnovation process? Well, when there's a specific and quantifiable problem, but the solution needs further development and testing. If it's stuck, people don't seem to have the time, commitment, or will to solve through normal order of business. And when development, testing, and feedback really is valued. So that's it for today. When we ask that if you have any questions about this session, that you go to Chatter, to the Embedded Innovation Learning Group, and you post your question there with hashtag BYB, hashtag PCInnovate. Thanks for listening today. Until next time.